All right, Matt Drudge, 1-866-4-DRUDGE, 1-866-4-DRUDGE. And, well, that is it. Now, we'll wait till next week, and Entertainment Weekly tells us what's coming up at next year's Academy Awards. And it starts breathlessly all over again, right? I mean, that's what they do out there. Just this one is ending. They're going to be saying, oh, who's going to be it next year? We all can't be Jamie Foxx, but he's one of the greats. There's great, and then there's really good greats. 1-866-4-DRUDGE, 1-866-4-DRUDGE. There's a heck of a story coming out tomorrow. Day one of the Michael Jackson trial. And before you roll your eyes, they may put this guy away for life, for the rest of his life. I know that's funny. I know that's clever. I know we like to hang our freaks right in the town square there. But, this turns out to be a phony case. Someone's going to have, we're going to be doing some public lynching. What happens if this case turns out to be completely bogus? Completely. What do you then do to the prosecutor? What do you then do to all these reporters, these Diane Diamonds? What do you do to them? If they have been pushing false information out there to such a degree to besmirch in such a way, we'll take that once the case falls apart, if it falls apart. But there's an interesting story here on coming soon on the SmokingGun.com, and they're trouble. They've been releasing all these documents. There's no document they haven't seen. They are going to allege in the morning, I've been told, that Michael Jackson's accuser, who's 15 years old, claims he knows more about sex than Michael Jackson does. Yeah, he told detectives that he knows more about sex than Michael Jackson. I don't know how I ever got to this point. And we're not even supposed to name him, right? Did I get the memo here at Clear Channel? We're not even supposed to name him, or at ABC. We're not supposed to name him. All right, we'll be good. I'll name him on the Drudge Report. I got no shame. If you got enough courage to go out there and start pointing fingers, and and you could say, well, Drudge, it's not fair. All right, I've already shown the picture of the mother who's now calling herself Janet Jackson. She married a guy named Jackson. We've already shown her face. And this this boy already gave the interview on Bashir, right, on ABC, that was beamed on Channel 4 in Britain and ABC here. How many times has Bashir shown the clip? I mean, Bashir must go to bed reciting Michael Jackson lyrics. This Bashir, who's going to be the first witness for Sneddon, as these open arguments go tomorrow. But it turns out that this innocent lamb told detectives that he knew, I know more about sex than Michael Jackson does. This surprising appraisal from the boy, who is now 15 years old, came during a January 2004 interview with Santa Barbara Sheriff, and they recorded it. The boy, who was 13 at the time, who was alleged molestation, replied that Jackson would always like to try to give me advice about the birds and the bees, but he didn't know much. I knew more than he did. At least that's what the claim is. Oh, that testimony is going to be beautiful. That testimony is going to be something else. And to the judge's credit, the judge is making this 15-year-old innocent lamb go into the courtroom and to testify in front of everybody. Not in some room with a little camera, Sneddon. In front of the court, in front of the jury, in front of Michael Jackson himself. If you're going to put this guy away for the rest of his life, your accuser ought to have to face you. And that's exactly what the judge has ordered here. Coming soon to an E-Channel reenactment near you. Have they done the casting on that? Maybe Corey Feldman can play the 15-year-old abused boy. Corey needs work, right? Ridiculous. This whole thing. Well, it starts tomorrow. Curtain opens day one on the Circus of the Court. Opening arguments. And they're really going after this mother. They're really going after her. How she said she wasn't abused, and then she said she was abused in her court papers during her divorce, and on, and that whole J.C. Penney shoplifting thing, and they touched her, and then they didn't touch her, and it's crazy. But the prosecutor's saying, well, what does this have to do with the boy being molested by Michael Jackson? You could say whatever you want about the mother, or the brother, or the brother's mother, or the sister, or the bank accounts, or the cancer, with a question mark. And I would give it to Michael Jackson's attorney, Messerow. He's going to get down there, and he's going to even probably ask for the blood cell counts of the boy. It's going to get that nasty. I guess there's a fine line, though. You can't turn off the jury too much. Maybe they'll do nothing. Maybe they'll just let Sneddon just go on and on with this goofy self. Glasses hanging off his head and stuff. Crazy. It's going to be fun to watch. So SmokingGun.com with an interview with the boy who said he knows more about sex than Michael Jackson does. How about that? I don't know how they ever got to that point, though. That is very curious. You put it in here, and you put it in there, and you do this, and you do that, and the birds and the bees up there at Neverland.
What's wrong with sharing your bed?
Diane Diamond is on the scene, live reporting exclusively.
Twist the truth. People think sex. They're thinking sex. My mind doesn't run that way. When I see children, I see the face of God. That's why I love them so much. That's what I see.
It's going to be interesting to see Diane Diamond, who's been covering the Jackson case so aggressively against Michael Jackson. She's under book contract, right? What do you think the excuse is going to be if he walks? And I think even at this point, court watchers are wondering, what has Sneddon done with this case? You got the daughter, the sister of the accuser saying, yeah, she lied about the case. And it looks very circumstantial at best. We'll see. But if Jackson walks and Jackson plays big, and we've been reporting here at Drudge, if Jackson wins, he's going to play the World Cup. Not play in the World Cup, perform at the World Cup next year, which is the biggest TV audience outside the Super Bowl on planet Earth. Yeah, even more than you, Chris Rock, at the Oscars. Now, if he walks big, and it turns out the prosecution was full of hot air, Sneddon lost his way somewhere there at a San Ynez winery. How is Diane Diamond going to spin that in her book? She probably will say, well, it was his fame that got him off, that they couldn't get a jury and all the rest. But even she is now, I was reading her column in the New York Post. Diamond has been writing a weekly update. She was even talking about some court watchers are wondering if this family has it all together. This family that is accusing. When everything that's coming out, and they got this bombshell video they showed in the courtroom where the family was praising Michael Jackson at the very time they were saying they were being held hostage and the boy was molesting Gavin. Jackson was molesting Gavin. At the very moment they're making this wonderful video, and they say they were coached. The problem is the guy making the video was German, and he barely spoke English. How did they coach him for an hour on tape? The whole thing is a disaster. Sneddon is a disaster, as far as I can tell. And you could say, well, why do you care? Why do you care so much, Drudge? What's in it for me? Why should I be worried about Michael Jackson? Every time I see his face, I get creeped out. The music sucks. He hasn't, maybe if he gets back with Quincy Jones, we'll listen again. That whole rap. Because what can happen to an individual when you have overzealous prosecutors in this country is frightening. And this is the story of the Michael Jackson case, in my opinion. 100 search warrants, photos of his genitalia and his arse. And I know many of you don't want to think of Michael Jackson in those terms, but Sneddon photographed his privates. Sneddon did. And if he did it to Michael Jackson, he could do it to you. Think about that. And then you couple that with a media establishment who wants to see you fail, who is mocking you because you are mockable, but still in cahoots. Almost like a weird dynamic, a weird merger of government and media yet once again. And you could say, well, this happens all the time. I always get this feeling whenever I see Tim Russert of GE there on the Meet the Press, sitting next to the Pentagon, secretary, or I remember with Albright. Madeleine Albright used to get the shivers because it's the marriage of big media and big government. The media industrial complex is frightening, and this is why I have been paying so much attention to this Michael Jackson case. Not necessarily because I, care about Michael Jackson that much. Even though I probably do think he's more talented than the average Joe out there, or Justin Timberlake, or Usher, or any of these new generation wannabes. They're all living in the shadow of the Guinness Book of World Records holder. Even Don Henley, even Fleetwood Mac, they're all living in the shadow of his record, and I don't know if they're going to be able to touch it. Maybe one day someone's going to come along and top it. It may not be in our lifetime. So here he is. And then you've got the prosecutor. You've got the government who has the authority to tear your life upside down. Now, I don't understand why the question hasn't been presented to Prosecutor Sneddon. Sir, will you prosecute the accusers if it turns out they were lying and exaggerating and misrepresenting? Will you prosecute them? And I would think the question probably would be no, because then he would have to look at the man in the mirror himself. Does Sneddon ever entertain any doubt on this case? Did he ever look at some of this, well, maybe the family is lying? Did he ever consider this as any decent prosecutor should? Did he ever consider the pros and the cons? Did he ever do any of this? It doesn't appear that he did. And that is what scares me, and what should scare you also, is the finger-pointing and the accusations and the whisper campaign taken to a government level with authority for 100 search warrants and photography of your private parts. Because somebody said something, and in the 93 case, apparently the description of Michael Jackson's private parts did not match the photos. That's why that case was never brought. Don't believe for a second it's because the boys settled. Don't believe for a second that was a private affair. Whether that had to do with the government, he would have to have been compelled under law to testify. Sneddon could have called the 93 boy accuser in there and say, tell me what you know, you're under oath. Tell me what you know. Tell me what he did to you. He never did that because the penis didn't match. I'm sorry to be so graphic, but Sneddon and that whole crowd up there has turned it into this. Do we have photos of and yeah, wait for this to leak on SmokingGun.com. We have been waiting here at Drudge to get Michael Jackson's nude photos because we know they're going to leak. That's what happens when the government gets your business. They leak it out. The government has no right to have photographs of your private areas. Because somebody said something, somebody whispered something, because somebody took a payoff, because somebody wanted to, looking for a mark, as Jay Leno has said of this family, of Miss Janet Jackson, Latina. How dare Sneddon even get, why isn't Sneddon the laughing stock of Santa Barbara right now? Why aren't they turning on him? Now, honestly, if I really thought that if Michael Jackson was a danger to society and he really was ripping people up to shreds, and he's made a lot of mistakes here, the way he discards people along the way is frightening. I think this is why, what's his face, Corey Feldman was so angry with Bashir, another ABC journalistic coup. I mean, at some point here, somebody has got to say Michael Jackson is not a danger, and where is the evidence? And when they got the girl to admit, when Messero got the girl to admit, under oath, yeah, I've lied about this case. Yeah, I didn't always tell the full story because, I'm young. And I didn't know it was wine. I assumed it was wine. It was in the wine room. Could have been some of Madonna's Kabbalah wine. Jeez, crazy. We want Sneddon's photographs of his pee-pee. I'll post those. I got a website that's not owned by Warren Buffett. It's Drudge on Sunday night.